Hello, everyone. I hope that y'all are having a great Tuesday. We have actually had a far more eventful Tuesday today here in the studio than we were hoping for. So if y'all are joining us from the Creative Circle, we have now have everything fixed and everything is live. If we have not seen you before in a while, welcome. We are, it's been a bit since we did one of these lunchtime paint-alongs. We had our seascape workshop together, so we were doing that live. And then, we took last week off. So we are back and excited. If you have never painted before, welcome. We are excited to have you join us. This is kind of a more relaxed version of the longer painting demonstrations that we do inside of the Creative Circle. And as I was thinking about what to do today and what to paint and what we could paint together, I was reflecting on kind of today's been a Monday here behind the scenes, and so I was reflecting on, let's do something that's like super relaxing and is just like lovely to ease into. So without further ado, we are going to do a sunrise, sunset, one of those. So here we go. What we have right here is I have toned my canvas, and as you can see, this time I'm using canvas pad instead of Canva paper, but it's essentially the same thing. The more interesting thing about this canvas is that it takes just a little bit longer to dry. So for those of you that are challenged by the dry time of acrylics, I would actually really recommend maybe some of this, it comes in a pad, and every brand has it, and it's just plain canvas, and it's floppier than canvas paper because it's not paper. Hey Kellen, good to see you. And hey Laura, hey Helen, good to see everybody. So like I said, it's been an eventful day, and so I was trying to think of what we could do that would be nice and relaxing and that we could all just kind of like ease into. And so this is a scene actually from my hometown on Hilton Head, and so we're gonna do some palm trees and kind of a sunset. And so what I always do is I always tone the canvas, and what that means is just putting a very light coat on of another color. And we do this just so that we don't have any white to the canvas. White is intimidating. Look, we've already started. We can't mess it up because we've already started. Oh, good, Roz. So glad to see you. So glad that you were able to join us, and good to see you, Celeste. Oh, MA, yes. I am glad that my parents still live there so that I get to go back. So first, I'm going to, as you can see off to the side, I'm going to adjust this just a little bit. I have my photo reference here. And I have essentially a palm tree that is in silhouette. So it is going to be more or less, just shove it over here. All right. It is more or less going to be black. And the way that we teach is we don't actually use black because we make our own. And so I'm going to make my black from ultramarine and Van Dyke brown. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to suggest where the palm tree is. And if you notice, like, this is very clearly kind of a weird camera angle, but this is where we as artists get to kind of, make our own world. We don't have to go exactly by what the photo is. So I can make my palm tree straight rather than have him come in at a wonky angle. That's one of the things we get to do as artists. And I'm going to come in and just, sort of suggest the palm tree. And I'm letting some of the background show through because if you look at this, there's lots of the background comes through on its own. And so I'm going to do a couple things. I'm going to make a smaller palm tree here. But I want them to be kind of scaled together. I don't want them to be, once again, this is us making our own reality. We don't have to follow what we see in the photo. And then I'm going to put in another one. And I'm going to make him taller so that they kind of all balance each other out. And I'm just going to use kind of the same general template and shape, because palm trees are kind of fun because they're more or less like lollipops on sticks, with kind of some fuzzy edges. And I'm going to put just couple little silhouette things in here so that it's kind of broken up. So you have palm tree number 1, palm tree number 2, and number 3. And really, you know, they balance each other out without being exactly the same or lined up in a row. And Kellen, basically what I do is I just kind of scrub the brush around. I'm not really using specific angles right now. I'm just getting paint down on canvas. And so, you know, next I'm going to do is we see some, along here we see some clouds and we kind of see the sun coming up, and it kind of goes from a yellow orange up into blues. So I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to just make some gray and get some clouds in and kind of just like map out where I want the clouds to be. So I'm going to make gray similar to how I made black, which was ultramarine blue and Van Dyke brown. Then I'm going to add a little bit of white. And now when I put this down, this is pretty dark and pretty dirty. Like it's not a pure color when I say dirty. So what I'm going to do is I want to add just a little bit of red, make it a little bit more purpley, make it a little bit more blue. And you just kind of go in and see how it looks. I'm just scrubbing. I'm not paying attention to any specific angle on my brush because I'm just right now getting a little bit of color down. And we're going to change the color as I go on, but I just want to kind of map out in general where the clouds are going to be. So same color, when I just run out, I just make more. And I add just a tiny little bit of magenta to make it a little bit more purple. Because down here, towards the bottom where the clouds are, they're closer to the sun, so they appear a little bit more purple. And I also kind of want them to pop against the orange sky. Oh, Kim, yeah, I'm so happy that you guys enjoy spending your lunch this way. It definitely, like I said, I spent most of the morning on the phone with tech support, so this is like a lovely, like, woo-saw. Like, I can just sit with y'all and chat, and makes the morning go. It makes the morning not be as much of a thing, you know? When you can sit and have your paints and just kind of meditate over it, it's a special thing. And I get to spend it with y'all. Y'all always put me in a happy place. I appreciate that. I'm actually, Nancy, I am using a bigger brush than I tend to because I left my smaller brush at home. So I am using a 12 right now. I'm also painting a little bigger than I have been. This is a 12 by 16. So there's just all kinds of improvisation going on. This is one of those things that I um, when I'm talking to my members of the creative circle, I tell them to not worry too much about having the exact. Oopsie, look, it was just a big blob of blue I didn't want. Don't stress it, is kind of what I say. You know, if you have a slightly different size brush or you have slightly different equipment or supplies, work with what you have, add when you can, but don't stress yourself out. Don't spend a boatload of money on things. Um, Start dipping your toe in and start getting going. So I have a 12. I also am working with a little bit bigger canvas than I normally do. I'm also working with a different kind of canvas than I normally do. So it's like just work with what you have. Um, Nancy, we'll have it in the replay, but it's white, Van Dyke brown, ultramarine blue, and a touch of magenta. All right. So now I'm going to come in, and I love this cloud line right here. Like that just kind of makes me happy. I'm going to do a couple things. So one, I want this area to be a little bit richer, and so I'm going to make it a little bit richer, and I'm also going to push it up a little bit. I don't want it to all be blue. So these are all of the decisions that we get to make as artists. We don't have to paint things as we see them in a picture, and actually pictures, they lie. The picture, especially if you're using your phone, sunsets and sunrises will be much more orange if you're on an Apple phone. So I love those really, really red, gorgeous sunsets. In fact, when we were driving back from our show on Sunday night, Rosemary and I, there was just one of those massive, massively beautiful red suns. And we knew that if we tried to take a picture of it, it'd make it like this yellow color that's just not nearly as special, It was like that red sun from like The Lion King. It was just gigantic and setting over the horizon. So I am using magenta, orange, and white. And I'm gonna go back and forth, and whether I want to make it more yellow or more pink, I will just add more yellow or more magenta. So just as I'm going back and forth, I'm basically taking magenta, orange, and yellow, and I'm making it either more yellow or more pink as I want to. So you do the same in yours. Actually, it's funny because we just released the module on how to paint big in the Creative Circle, and one of the ways that I say how to paint big is to not hold the brush like this. This is when you're painting big, you don't hold the brush and you don't choke up on it like this. And even now that I'm doing it, I try to hold it a little bit farther back. But because this is small scale and I'm at a table, I can't get as far away from this piece, so that's why I'm a little bit farther up on the handle. It was fun. It's funny because I know that literally as I'm teaching, I am sometimes breaking the rules myself. And this is, I tell I tell all of my students that we learn things. It's kind of like when you're a kid and you learn how to do things, like you learn how to ride a bike or you learn the correct way to do it. And then you start learning the rules around it, and then you figure out where you can, sort of break the rules or bend them, or, what you can get away with. It's the same way with art. You learn the right way to do things, and then you figure out the way that you want to do things. And that's really how you start to find some of your own style. And so this peachy color is really not that different from the burnt sienna, if you'll notice. But instead of having it be quite so transparent, we're coming in and making it just a touch more opaque. I don't know if y'all can hear this through the earbuds, but if you hear a printer printing, those are all of your boxes getting shipped if you join the Creative Circle. Okay, so I'm just going in and I'm continuing to kind of fill in this section. Now, as we go more towards the blue area, it kind of gets, there's kind of like this section where it's a little kind of brownish color. Kellen, I've been doing this for a long time and had a lot of trial and error. It just takes time. It's like anything. It's initially, you have to learn to walk before you learn to run, and you get there, you follow other people, what they're doing, and eventually you learn to improvise on your own and you start finding your own voice, I remember when I was first starting out, I thought it was like some certain supply, or, just this, if I tried this one marker, or if I tried this one thing, I could get it, and I'd have my art, and I would know what I was doing. And it took me a while to realize that, the supplies don't matter. It's you get that good foundation in color and design. And so I've moved from yellow. I added a little yellow, and now I'm adding some blue in. It's white and teal, and I'm mixing it with the kind of peachy colors I've already made, so it will be a little bit dirty. And you'll notice when I come in to these palm trees, I kind of cut back in, and I bring the sky into the palm trees just with a little bit of edge of my brush, and that helps create the illusion of a palm tree. You don't have to go back in and redo the leaves. We use the positive and the negative space. And the positive space would be the palm tree, the actual item, and the negative space is the background. And we use both of those things to create the illusion of the palm tree, which is what we're really trying to do, is create the illusion of the palm tree. We're not trying to define every little detail of the palm tree because it's in silhouette. We're not going to, adding extra lots of details to it wouldn't help the painting. Joe, we keep the lunchtime paint along sessions. We keep them here in Learn, Paint, Grow in the Units tab. And Rosemary, do we put them in?
It's under lunchtime paint alongs.
In the Creative Circle as well?
No, just in
Okay, yeah, we have them here under Units. We have a unit especially for them here. like I said, these are just the more informal versions of the more in-depth paint sessions that I do for y'all in the circle. Those are more, you know, I have longer than an hour. So like I was videoing the beginning of one this morning, the wildflowers. And those I love because I can go really in depth and like tell y'all the thought process behind how you come up with the cropping, and we can get a little bit deeper into our paint nerd. Right, so this is essentially purple, which is ultramarine, just a touch of magenta and white. And as you move up in a sky, it's going to go from a warmer blue to up towards the apex of the sky. It's always going to be a little bit more ultramarine, a little bit more purple. MA, when I am, you're asking about that I don't wash my brush. Well, I kind of do. When I'm switching in between colors that don't go together. Speaking of which, I lost my white. Where'd my white go? So this is a gradient, and so these colors are going to be blending into one another anyways. So since they're blending into one another, I don't mind so much that I'm picking up little bits and pieces of the other colors, because, you know, on the canvas they're going to be picking up pieces of the other colors. When I get too much paint on the paintbrush, I'll just wipe it off. Like right now I kind of have a little bit too much, and I want to, like this color was actually getting a little bit muddier than I wanted. So what I did is I just wiped my brush off. If I really want to clean it, I can dunk it in the water. But like I said, I right now I kind of want just a little bit of each color in each color. So I don't want it to be too pure. But if I were trying to go, if I were painting something orange and I hadn't made that gradient, that gradual change, yes, I would be washing my brush in between colors a little bit more. But see, I'm mixing, right now I'm mixing a little bit of the blue with the orange that I mixed to make a gray, and kind of bring those colors together and have them blend a little bit more. So it just depends on what I'm doing and at what point. If the colors are mixing together and not like if they're mixing together on the canvas and not creating mud, then I don't feel like I have to go in there and do that. So I'm just creating a little more shape around this palm tree so that it's not quite so lollipoppy. And if y'all remember, this was that oopsie. Kind of just left it in there, didn't I? Let's see. See if I can go back, and I'm just going to cover that up. It's a little dark for a cloud. And it might take a little bit. It might take a couple layers to cover up that oopsie. So I'm going to let it dry and kind of proceed from there. So, you know, as I'm going through, like, honestly, this area feels pretty good to me and kind of shows what I want to show. These clouds, they're clearly roughed in. They're just kind of mad and angry and gloomy, and that's not really what I want. So I'm going to come back in and try to make them a little bit lighter and fluffier and have them be a little bit less ominous. So I'm doing white and a little bit of magenta and a little bit of ultramarine. And I'm bringing in the magenta kind of where it looks like the sun is hitting the underbelly of some of these. So it's got a little bit of pink in it. And with magenta, when you add white, it gets very cool very quickly. So I usually add a little bit of a touch of orange to warm it back up again. Yes, lollipoppy is a very technical term. It's just, when I'm getting in there and describing things that we see in real life, it's kind of like, what's the thing that it most reminds you of? So yes, lollipoppy is my technical term. So I'm just adding like little bits of magenta into these clouds, and it'll kind of warm them up just a little bit. And then this gray, as you see right here, like this is dark. This is pretty dark, but it's not. It just like here it's a little dead, so I'm going to make it darker than the sky, but not as dark as we had it. This is a nice flat gray. And this flat gray is probably too flat. It's probably, like if we put this color on, just as it is, it needs like a touch of something else to have a little bit of life to it. And that's the thing about anything we do in painting is never one flat color. Like these clouds, as they move towards and away from the light, they change colors. So as the light moves towards and across things, it changes them. So you never have one constant color. So that's why even in these darks, I don't have a flat black. And when you use a transparent dark, it creates slight differences in the color because the canvas is showing through. So it makes it more interesting. So you never want straight flat color across any specific surface because it'll make it'll make things look flat. And nothing is truly flat. And even a flat surface, as light moves across it, it will change. Definitely, it helps you to think of things as shapes. Yes, yes, I would agree. Whenever I think of something as a specific object, I find it makes it your eye starts tricking you, and your eye wants to like for a great example is this cloud. When you see it in the picture, you probably think, oh, that's gray. Your eye wants it to be gray, but if you were to actually pick it out, it's probably a very purpley gray. And so it's you have to kind of learn to almost not trust your eyes. And your eyes will do things like that not just with color, but with shapes. And so you almost have to use totally different language so that you stop thinking of things as like the shapes that we tend to give them. It's a little wild. Okay, so I'm just coming in and softening a few of these edges. Making them a little, these kind of clouds are a little bit fuzzy. So I don't want them to be, for this I'm using a very light touch. And then I want to, these, I have a couple little variations in value, but they still feel just a little bit flat. So I'm going to add some, let's see, some lights in here so that once again these clouds have a little bit more, see, all of a sudden they start feeling a little bit more three-dimensional. I'm just coming in very lightly with the tip of my brush. And this color will dry darker, which is why initially it kind of looks a little bit lighter, but it should dry darker. And I might come in with my finger even, honestly, and just soften the bottom edge. And here this cloud actually has, like, I love how it has a little bit softer edge in general. Already it doesn't need a whole lot of help. And then you know what, guys? This is more or less come together. This is more or less, you know, what I was going for on this lunchtime paint along. I'm going to come in, I'm going to do a little bit more detail work on the palms just to make some of these darks a little bit darker. But this is 100% how you can, you know, take a half an hour and just do a quick sketch. I don't know about talent. It takes a lot. I'd say it takes practice. It takes practice. Because I definitely, if you can sign your name, you can learn to paint. I definitely have some a lot of mistakes. And honestly, that's one of the great things about acrylics is that there are no like unrecoverable mistakes. So, like I said, I'm just kind of coming in and darkening up a few areas that had kind of gotten a little too light on these. Defining a couple things just a little bit better. And this is where we were talking about the, we're working on the positive space, which is the actual object, and then we can also define the object through the negative space, which is like the sky around it, for example. So I'm not even really doing a whole lot. I'm just taking the darkest dark areas of what would be the palm tree and kind of just sketching them back in a little bit. And I'm not even covering every little area because then it would be trying to define too much. But that just kind of adds just that little bit more definition to the palm trees that really brings them home. And if you can do this and not use a flat black and use a transparent color and bring it as needed a little bit darker, it's a really lovely sophisticated way to do it. So D, the color I mixed with ultramarine, it was Van Dyke Brown. So here we go, y'all. I think this was a lovely way to oh, actually nope, it's almost dry. I'm gonna fix that. See, you know what I was saying about you can't ever mess yourself up. I come back in with that color right there. I'm just still trying to cover up that giant blue splatter that I was not trying to do. So you can just come in and rework things and cover it up. And that's one of the brilliant things about acrylics is that there's no irrecoverable. There's no mistake that isn't unrecoverable. So I'm mixing that magenta and orange and yellow to make a lovely peach color. There we go. There we go. So thank you guys. Thank you. This was a lovely way and a lovely pivot to my Tuesday. So I can't thank you guys enough. I like to view painting as a sanctuary, and so I hope that you guys do too. And even as we're learning new things, we can push ourselves and change and try new things and really just release and give ourselves permission to play and permission to try and just have a boatload of fun. So thank you all again. I really appreciate it, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. All right. Bye, y'all.